Hello, another wet mop brought to you by, I'm not making the joke. If you guys watched my last video, you probably know what I wanted to say. Brought to you by, sponsored by. Consider this phase 2 of mandating people's bodies. The demand for babies is high. When I tell you that CWS, Child Welfare Services, have noticed a consistent decline in new children entering the foster care system within the last 3 years, whether that be because couples aren't having kids during the pandemic or there's just not kids entering the foster system, it may not be too strange that the US wants to involve themselves in fostering hundreds of thousands Ukrainian kids. That's admirable, right? Okay, well, think about this. When they fled Afghanistan and they emptied out the military bases, embassies, all that, they brought along thousands of Afghan minors. Rewind farther than that, 2017, when there was a food crisis in Venezuela, there was government corruption all over, the cartel was running rampant, so a lot of families were seeking asylum in America, and what ended up happening was families were being stripped of their children and then told to go back home, as if they could. Those children entered foster care, just like everyone else, just like the Afghan kids. The vast majority of children in these programs are Central American kids that came from Mexico. 20% are African American. Congress and the White House were anticipating a huge surge in the foster care system. They were hoping for more children. That didn't happen. What did end up happening? What is happening? Now they're trying to ban abortions. They're trying to make treatment, if you were to travel, a harsh sentence. The sentences that these people are receiving or threaten to receive are even more harsh than the original sentence that their persecutor ended up receiving. America's done this again and again and again. The first time was with the Native Americans. When we first came over, we stripped them of their children, pillaged, did everything unimaginable. So it's not maybe plausible that it could happen again right before our eyes. There are bills in place to ban contraceptives, male and female. Reported in March 2022, the government spends about $8 billion in child welfare services. The federal budget for reunification is $275 million, and even 26% of $8 billion. The states receive up to tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses and awards for higher adoption rates, more legal guardianship. The state only has to provide $1 for every $3 that the federal program provides. Higher adoption incentives follow higher adoption rates. Currently this year, there's about 400,000 children in foster care. This may all seem like speculation, like I'm fighting against the infringement of our privacy, of our decision-making, of our rights to our body, but this is a consistent pattern that America has been treading. These kids, even though they're being monitored and cared for, have experienced countless amount of trauma in the foster care. There's 3 different categories of human trafficking. There's exploiting women, which is infringing upon our right at this point. There's forced labor, which is bringing other children from different countries over here, forcing them into foster care and then having them grow up to be law-abiding citizens, having them enter the workforce, join the military. And the third is debt bondage. You guys can probably figure out what that means just by hearing it, or maybe you've experienced it because it's not uncommon. A lot of people suffer with poor credit and having debt. But let's say you have a job. Okay, well, you need a car to get to your job and gas to put into the car to get to your job. And then let's say maybe you live alone. So on top of property taxes for your car, you also have property taxes for your home, along with insurance for your car, insurance for your home. And then there's other bills that come into it: water, electric, maybe trash, food, rent. And let's just think out of the realm of possibilities, because people don't get injured, people don't get sick. So unexpected medical bills, you should have expected it. Don't forget maintenance on the car and the home as well. So that could be $100 to $1,000 on the trip, who knows? So with all that being said, it takes a lot to maintain just your daily life. If the government is paying minimum wage, which minimum wage means different things to a lot of different businesses, minimum wage means $15 as of right now, right? But depending on where you go, that could be $13, maybe $10, and you can make up the difference within tip share or commission, which is how a lot of people make their money. But you can see how this becomes a problem when you're paying people the minimum and all the prices for rent, food, gas, everything just keeps going up and up and up, because there's consequence if you don't give them your money. Let's say your unexpected medical bill goes off to debt collectors, or maybe you missed a car payment, so now repo man's coming to your house and knocking on your door. Okay, so maybe the repo took your car. Now you can't get to your job. Okay, well, if you can't get to your job, then your job's probably gonna let you go. And once you lose that job, how are you supposed to make more money? Because in that 2 to 3 weeks, it's hard. And at the end of it all, if you don't pay the money, you have to be seen in court and then possibly go to jail. Or if not jail, then you possibly get fined and then have to pay out more money that you don't have, because if you had that money, you would have been paying your bills. So that stays on your record for how many ever so years. And that debt also accrues and follows you throughout your entire life. And if you get married, both of your debt are each other's. Congratulations. So there's a consequence for being poor, and there's a consequence for unforeseen things happening, because that's just life. I would like to reference Marsha Lee's adoption. It was a case based off a politician that lured pregnant women from Marsh Islands to America, promising tens of thousands of dollars in exchange for their baby, to be adopted or trafficked to a couple for 4 to 10 times more money. Now, if our politicians are already thinking of it, who's to say that they're not going to find likewise values in other countries that maybe don't have the best interests? There is a protection act that different countries fall into different categories in. It's called Trafficking Victim Protection Act of 2000. Tier 1, which the US claims to be in, means that the country fully complies with minimum standard of protection. Tier 2, the country is not fully compliant but is making sufficient efforts to meet the standard. Our boy Russia. Tier 3, country does not comply and has no interest in putting in effort. I understand a lot of people think that Russia and America may be butting heads, that would be the World War III. But if they're working behind the scenes, if they have likewise interests, if they can find an even ground, if Russia even somehow figures out how to coerce the American government, this could be catastrophic. It's not just women's rights at this point, it's everybody's rights. Now take the Marsha Lee's adoption case, put the politician as the United States, and cut out bringing pregnant women to the States. They're just taking kids. You're seeking refuge? Nope, sorry, can't do that. Only when we say it's okay. Only kids. This is what really shocked me. Former executive and director of International Adoption Agency pleads guilty to fraudulent adoption scheme. 2 people co-conspired to bring a child from Poland because apparently I think one of the families wasn't technically approved for transnational adoption, which is when you bring somebody from a different country over to the Americas. I'm telling you, please research. The reason why I think that America wants so many children in foster care, because we aren't having babies ourselves until now because it is mandated. No exceptions for anything, even if it's life-threatening. You must carry it out to full term. Something good is that apprenticeship continues to rise for exiting foster children. In 2017, funds for apprenticeship were $68 million, and then by 2020, it increased to $175 million. So about $100 million it increased over 3 years. If they did it once, you bet your bottom dollar they're gonna try again. Their intention is to connect youth to different trades, encouraging the working class. There's a new department program set up to combat homelessness and exiting youth, providing a controlled and safe environment. I wonder if it's gonna be like this shared living communities where it's like you have a curfew and you're not allowed to drink. Just anything out of the norm, not allowed, that could potentially get you kicked out. If the US can ensure future generations continue to thrive, we will continue having a workforce and be #1 in the military by who has more. I mean that we're the best, but in their eyes, as long as we have a steady flow of people, pawns. Russia has one of the highest human trafficking rates overall. If the US is putting up a front on its views and values, who's to say Russia couldn't possibly coerce America behind the scenes if values match? I mean, they have oil, we have oil. We both have the most nuclear weapons. If we didn't want to go head to head, we could join forces, and then there's just awful world domination. Transnational adoption has been linked to various crime groups, government corruption, as well as labor and immigration laws being broken. Take all this information and just think about it. Take it as you will, do some research, just think about it. The dots connect. I'm not saying this is exactly what the United States is up to, but it is awfully weird how we're trying to foster everybody's kids while forcing our people to put their potential child into foster care. When we already have so many kids, we can hardly help them in the situations that they're being put through. There's some level of trafficking there. There's some sketchy thing going on behind the scenes. I hope you guys have an open mind and a safe journey. Until next time, have a good evening. Bye.